Roger_27 is an IT director for 10 years, and today was his last day. And he goes on a rant about it's much longer than what we're going to talk about, but basically, the director of operations called a meeting with this guy who's the director of IT.
I just want to point out it's his last straw.
What did I say?
He said last day.
Oh, no,
It
today is
might
his
have
last
been. It
straw.
might have
It
been
might
his
have been,
last
you
day,
never
but
know.
but he
We'll
says
get into
last
that.
straw.
So this guy's the director of IT and manages three IT folks, and the director of operations calls a meeting with him and the CEO, and director of operations starts saying, I want to have a weekly meeting with you to review all of your IT tasks and your priorities, and doesn't want to just go and review the Jira board that the IT director uses, but actually wants to have the IT director come and sort of present it to him and discuss everyone's tasks and workloads. And the director of operations somehow suggests that they're going to set the IT person's priorities, and the person is frustrated and doesn't think that that should happen, and is just it's a whole long rant. We'll link it in the show notes if anyone wants to go read it. It was slightly unhinged, but I I did think it was an interesting scenario of I can see this going two ways. And one of the comments in the Reddit thread I agreed with is it sounds like there's a good chance that your company is planning on outsourcing all of this, at which point the director of operations would become the person in charge of the outsourcing. And so they're trying to put together the plan of how to get rid of your job and make this actually happen. The other alternative is the IT guy sucks at communicating and is not doing a good job helping operations, the people who are running the business, understand all of your priorities. And so they've gone to their last straw and now are coming to you and saying, tell me what you're working on so I can know how you're going to impact me every single day. It feels like there's a good chance there's just a terrible set of communication going on here. Seems like a bit of a jerk move on the director of operations part to basically sort of try and take over your job and not have that. I don't know. There's probably a better way to do that, but I don't know. Based on reading the thread, my feeling is there's some really poor communication coming out of this IT department, and that could be maybe not the only factor, but a factor.
Yeah, and again, this one reminded me of the only time I've run an IT organization, right? Like when I say IT, I mean like real IT,
Sure.
NetOps, network
Right.
operations, is just like IT. Um, and in aviation, it's high stress, 7 days a week, blah blah blah. But this did remind me, and actually, the situation I had was we were having stability issues. It's very high performing. Like when I did my first day, the CTO, who I love, he's just an amazing CTO. He dropped like the chipset document on my desk for Intel's new chip and said, "Hey, you might want to read this." And I was like, "You out of your mind? You want me to read the chipset document? Like the
Right. Why does
technical
that matter?
like Jesus." But just a brilliant guy. But some memory leaks, difficult code to stay stable because it was so high performing. And I got in a situation where one of the recent releases was less stable than the others. And the CEO had actually responded to all the top level airlines. And remember, we're not, it's airlines, but it's going to top level guys at airlines and it's going to me. So it's like my name is now in the universe
Right.
to some pretty big airlines. And he sort of called me out passively, like, what are you going to do to guarantee our customer stability in the next quarter?
Wow.
So there were two things I didn't like. One, he put a distance between myself and everybody else, right?
Right.
Like, we're in this
Yep.
together always, right?
Yep.
And he's CEO, so he's accountable. Super nice guy. Love him to bits. Um, and it really bothered me. But the thing that bothered me more was it told me that they had no idea where their weakest link in technology was. They didn't understand that memory leaks start in engineering, they
Right.
blow up in production. So all the work I had done gaining trust with IT process, and it just wasn't getting through to them. So actually it's the only time in my life where I've immediately quit and and
Sure.
and wrote a long, this is just not a good fit. You're not at a level of a you know where I want to be and at the level of understanding of where things where the fires start, and that tells me
Sure.
you're probably not going to invest in fixing them. So it was
Right.
fun. We can keep in touch, but not for me, right? And I was a lot more pissed than that, but I wanted to leave sort of
Sure.
on good terms. And 5 hours later, the resignation was rejected. The C-level guys have all called the CEO and said, you need to fix this. So we're out at dinner and we're talking, and I explained to him my whole spiel. Like, it blows up in production where I am the ruler of that domain, but deep down that it starts here. And that I'm not saying
Right.
that's not for me to help fix, but you can't ever do that on a an email chain with these types of people.
Sure.
So
Right.
so I did. I went back. I love the people. I love the job. I love the CEO. And together with the CEO, we did a great job of getting a lot better. There's still challenges because it's high performing. It's close to the metal. Um, so I'm all about transparency, right? So this one reminds me of that. And again, we don't have all the information, but it
Right.
reminds me of where other guys can step in believing they're helping. And it could be as simple as that. It could be the CEO
Right.
responding to, we have so many problems in production. It's like, oh, I'm the hero. Let me step in. I've got this process background. We did this at my last company. It worked. And it's like,
Right.
cool. That was React code and this is C++, right? Like,
Right.
what have those two things got to do with each other, right? Like, um, so that, yeah, this one reminded me of that. Like, is the CEO playing hero? Again, not enough info, but I
Yep.
feel for IT. The amount of times they get crap.
Absolutely. I think this goes back to my no one in this situation is communicating effectively,
Yeah, I
right?
know.
So the IT person, absolutely, if it's gotten to the point that your CEO is just sitting there going, yeah, it'd be great if you could give me, the director of operations these status updates. Like, bud, pay attention. You're clearly not doing parts of your job very well. Director of operations, clearly bad at communicating. If they've decided this is the approach to take with the IT person. Just, yeah, communication is one of those things that I feel like that is the thing I come back to in all jobs, all companies. Like, not all problems, but a good chunk of problems in this world are poor communication. If people were just better at talking to one another, it would be, I don't know, it'd be that Simpsons image of people thinking about a world without lawyers and it's rainbows and bunnies and people dancing around. Like, that is what the world would be if people actually knew how to communicate with one another.
Yeah, and for our listeners, just so you know, I don't think resigning on the spot is necessarily the best approach.
Sure.
But it was a calculated move on my part because I knew the chips I had in the company already, because
Right.
I'd made a lot of progress. So I did know in that scenario it was actually going to be okay, but it would get the kind of attention that I needed to actually make the kinds of changes that I needed, but not.
It's also it's a move you have to be okay with.
Yes.
So if you were wrong about your chips or he had
Yeah.
a stubborn streak or whatever, you had to be okay with you now didn't have a job.
Yeah. And I also don't want to sugarcoat it. It's extremely stressful. Like
Right.
head of IT in a company that has P zeros is it's life changing when you do it. Like, your health suffers. You're getting called
Right.
on 4th of July on the beach and being told it's not 4th of July where we are. We don't give a shit. Get on the phone. So it's very, very high stress. But to Kevin's point, yeah, you've got, like, it's calculated, but you've got to be okay if you're going to play that type of game.
Yep.